from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on AgDay, a special report from Washington, D.C. We'll look at the biggest issues facing the ag industry in 2018, including trade and a new farm bill, and agribusiness checking on the farm economy.
There's been a price rally in grains, so sort of a weather bump coming out of South America, which has been very timely.
And we'll hear my thoughts on spending time in the nation's capital.
AgDay, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of AgDay. I'm Clinton Griffiths. Today, we're at the nation's capital where there is much to do in 2018. We came with a delegation from Missouri Farm Bureau. Every year, they bring agricultural leaders from across the state to Washington for an in-depth discussion with policy analysts, advocates, and legislators. It's a diverse cross-section of the industry bent on taking time to focus on the issues at hand. And this year, there are plenty.
My takeaway is that they were giving us a warning that they're serious about some of the conflicts we're having in trade. It's particularly serious about our trade with China, and the message I will take back to Missouri Farm Bureau members in Missouri is prepare yourself for some rough waters, particularly in the soybean market as we face the chance of some reprisals from China for the moves that this administration has made on trade.
One of the busiest men in the administration is USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue. Since being appointed, he's been traveling the countryside talking to farmers and ranchers about what matters most to them. Well, today, he took time to sit down with us and talk about what he's learned.
We've got to make sure that our crop insurance safety net is protected. So the overall goal for a farm bill is a bill that provides an appropriate safety net for farmers, not that they farm for a program, but they farm for the market forces. But when all the vagaries of weather, pests and insects and floods and droughts and all those things come, then that producer can have an opportunity to do it again next year, hoping always for a better crop.
Do we think the nutrition title is going to be more of a challenge this time around, or would you like to see some reforms there now that you've been here a while?
I think, again, the nutrition title is always a huge part of the farm bill, and many people have suggested it ought to be the food bill because that's where most of the money goes in feeding those Americans who can't feed themselves. And there have been some snags thus far. I think they'll be worked out, certainly. We provided what I believe to be a creative idea over our feeding our hungry people who can't provide for themselves. That was a harvest box that could be delivered directly to their home with maybe a menu of their choosing, nutritious, stable foods for half of their supplemental dollar, and the rest they could spend as they had been.
What do we think our chances? Have you heard much chatter
back? Again, I think the press and many of the members of Congress, we didn't have an opportunity to explain that ahead of time, so we haven't had a deep conversation. Many of them took it very negatively initially, but I think that's because they didn't understand all the nuances. But we believe it's our responsibility to lay out new ideas, innovative ideas of how we can accomplish goals in frankly, a better fashion.
One of the Secretary's biggest priorities for 2018 is getting a farm bill through Congress. That work has to start in both the House and the Senate. Well, we sat down with the Senate Chairman, Senator Pat Roberts of Kansas, and asked him how it's coming.
We're just in a very tight situation with regards to the lack of any real price and, for that matter, sales or major sales on the export side. So they're not interested in anything brand new. They might be if it really would be of help, of course, but they want stability and they want us to get the job done so they can go to their banker or their lender, whoever that might be, and say, here, we have a farm bill in place, we have crop insurance in place. That's the #1 issue all across the country. So we have to save and preserve crop insurance. There'll be a fuss about that, but I think we can win that.
Yeah. Change in ARC, is that going to be a big change for folks? Will it be a big adjustment or just tweaks?
Well, I think we already have some pilot programs that are recommending some changes. Obviously, if you do it nationwide, why that's going to be costly. We don't have yet our baseline, meaning the budget we have to work with. That's on April 9.
Okay.
Won't know that until that particular time. that obviously will have an effect on what we can or cannot do to the ARC program. Obviously, it's by county, and then you get into some disparities without question, and we're trying to address that.
As we look at the other pieces of the Farm Bill, which is maybe the nutrition title, the part of there, where are we on getting that worked through? It sounds like that could be some of the bigger sticking point.
Well, we'll see.
You're not sure. You're not sure if it'll.
Well, the House will work its will,
okay.
And they seem to be, taking a course. They call it reform, but that's in the eyes of the beholder. In our case, we're going to be making efficiencies. We have some other ideas with a SNAP program that I think would be more welcome on a bipartisan basis. So we'll see. But that's not different than any time we've had a farm bill. I mean, the House always has a position that they would like to have, and then we have to have 60 votes to pass anything. So we'll work it out, and if there is a difference, we'll also work it out in conference.
Yeah. So you're expecting maybe a little more moderate change to the SNAP program as opposed to maybe what the House is talking about?
Well, I don't know what moderate means. We can make efficiencies. I think we want to make it work better, especially the people who truly need it. But at the same time, like the bonus payments, that hasn't worked out very well. Too many states gamed that program, so we should be getting rid of those bonus payments. And then you just keep going from there and see what's amenable to both sides.
One of the biggest questions outside of the Farm Bill that needs an answer, will there be any changes to the RFS? I sat down with EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt and asked him what to expect.
But I think what is really our focus at this point is providing clarity on the RVP waiver, on whether that's something we can do legally. We've been involved in about a 4 to 6 month process at least, evaluating that question. It is a legal question and not a policy question. And what I mean by that is, it isn't a matter of preference or discretion. It's a matter of whether the statute authorizes and permits that kind of decision. There are arguments on both sides. And so we're trying to evaluate the merits and demerits of those arguments, the language in the statute, to determine what authority does exist at the agency on granting the ability to sell 12 months a year. So practically, you look at that and you think, absolutely, it makes sense to be able to sell 12 months a year. It helps for the infrastructure. Sure. It helps for but at the same time, is it authorized by the statute? So that's something we're trying to get fixed and work and really get an answer to in the near term.
Of course, not all the news is happening in Washington this week. Let's kick it back to the studio and Tyne Morgan.
Thanks, Clinton. Well, a new survey on the rural economy says things are improving, but it's slow. The Creighton University Rural Main Street Index slipped in March but remained above growth neutral for a second straight month. For the first time since mid-2015, the RMI has recorded 2 straight months above growth neutral. But overall, weak commodity prices continue to weigh on the rural economy. The February Farm Equipment Sales Index jumped to 37.2 from February's 33.8. This marks the 55th consecutive month the reading has moved below growth neutral of 50. The Bayer-Monsanto deal is struggling to get approval from U.S. regulators who worry the merger could hurt competition. Bloomberg News is reporting the Department of Justice does not think Bayer's proposal to sell off businesses goes far enough. The companies are still seeking approval from European officials as well. Now, some better news for Monsanto. A lawsuit claiming glyphosate causes cancer lost traction this week. A California judge called testimony from several anti-glyphosate experts shaky. The court heard from dozens of witnesses, including toxicologists and epidemiologists. The judge questioned the validity of some of the scientists' testimonies. It's still unclear which witnesses will be allowed to testify once the trial begins. No word on when the judge will reach a final decision. Well, this week's drought monitor map shows drought persisted or worsened from Kansas, central Oklahoma, and eastern Texas. Exceptional drought, or D4, was introduced in a patch of northern Oklahoma. The last 5 months have been intensely dry in the central and southern plains. The drought monitor report shows much of that area has received less than 1/10 of an inch of rain since early October. A federal claims court has ruled the Army Corps of Engineers is to blame for reoccurring flooding along the Mississippi River. The judge says the Corps' policies favored wildlife protection over economic protection. This has been a long-running dispute over flood control dating back to 2007. More than 300 farmers, land and business owners from 6 states are part of the class action lawsuit. A second legal phase will determine if property owners should be compensated. And those are your headlines. I'm Tyne Morgan.
In Washington, it hasn't been quite warm enough for the cherry blossoms to open up. Let's check out some more crop conditions from around the country, and we turn it over to Mike Hoffman. Mike?
Good morning, Clinton. If this picture doesn't put a smile on your face, I don't know what will. Mike Lass in Lockney, Texas, says he's back home from vacation, so he's back in the saddle again. And as you can see, calving season is underway. Now, taking a look at the wind speed forecast today, you can see very strong winds across much of the middle of the country, somewhat into the northeast. That'll continue throughout the day, and it extends into the southwest at times as well. Tomorrow we'll start with a little less wind from coast to coast, but things will increase again, especially in the west, a little bit in the southeast, and a little bit in the northeast. We'll have your forecast coming up, but first here are some hometown temps.
Ever wake up wondering what does today's weather have in store? Well, with weather updates, it delivers the local forecast right to your cell phone each morning to make preparing for the day easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
When we come back, we'll talk about the farm economy and how farmers are shaping up in 2018. And later, we'll continue our conversations with leaders here in Washington, including the administrator of the EPA.
Ag Day, brought to you by Resicor Corn Herbicide, a uniquely powerful formulation, extraordinary power over weeds.
When we're in Washington, we like to find some of the great analysts that live and work here that kind of keep a tab on what's going on in farm country and the pulse of the farm economy. And Jackson Takish is one of those folks with Farmer Mac. Jackson, as we look at this first quarter of 2018, what do we know?
Well, it's really early. As you know, we're heading into the spring plant, so we don't even know exactly what crops people have decided to plant yet. There's still a lot of information that will be uncovered in the coming months. What we do know is there's been a price rally in grains, so sort of a weather bump coming out of South America, which has been very timely as farmers carried over a lot of grain from the end of last year's harvest. So having the opportunity to market it at 40 cents a bushel higher on corn, 60, 80 cents a bushel higher on soybeans, very beneficial from a cash flow perspective. Excellent for the economy, excellent for the farm economy, so that's a really big plus heading in. There's some headwinds though, a lot of trade talk, a lot of free trade agreements kind of hanging out in the wind, and those types of uncertainties sort of hang high over the farm economy right now.
Yeah, if you were going to give the farm economy a grade or a score, where do you feel like we're sitting? In a good position going into 18, or are we still kind of just trying to make it through?
You know, it really depends on where you are and what kind of producer you are, so it's a hard thing to give a full grade to the entire farm economy in general. However, I think cautious optimism tends to be one of the things that is common amongst the farming community. We're looking right now, prices are good, the dollar index, so the strength of the dollar is coming back a little bit. We've got good demand for our products, and as long as we don't have any major headwinds come through, I think cautious optimism is where people want to be. The USDA numbers that came out in February were a little bit pessimistic, so they tend to be a little bit cautious when they release those February numbers. However, those usually come up as we get more information, so I would expect there to be an upward revision in those numbers.
All right, well, something to watch as we get through 2018. Thank you so much, Jackson, and we'll be back with more Ag Day from Washington, D.C. coming up in just a few minutes.
Ag Day, brought to you by Liberty Herbicide, the simply better solution for superior weed control and a stronger yield.
And welcome back to Ag Day. I'm meteorologist Mike Hoffman. You can see the drought monitor still pretty bad from southwestern Kansas into the panhandle of Texas, all the way back through the Four Corner region. A little bit dry in the southeast as well, but going back 1 month, what you're going to notice is there was a lot more dryness up and down parts of the Mississippi River Valley, especially Missouri and parts of Illinois. That has improved over the past 4 weeks, which is good news for those folks. But the drought situation has actually gotten a little bit worse in West Texas on up into parts of Kansas. Now, taking a look at the situation as we look at the weather maps today, you can see a storm system moving across the plains. Unfortunately, those real dry areas, look at that. Not seeing much. Most of it's going north, as a lot of these systems have been doing lately. And you can see as we head through the day today, we're going to see rain showers spreading into the middle Mississippi Valley, a few spotty through the southeast, but it's going to be some pretty heavy snow. Parts of South Dakota, Nebraska, rain and mountain snow out west, and in the east, high pressure building in there, so that will keep things mainly dry. High pressure sits over the Great Lakes, so this storm system will spread all the way up into the far lower Great Lakes with a little bit of snow over the next 24 to 36 hours. and then all of that moves into the southeast with just rain showers. That storm system causing some pretty decent amounts of snow and rain out west. Past 24 hours on the rainfall estimate, most of it's been in the west. Adding in the next 36, we're going to see that system spreading across the country from west to east, across the Plain States into the Ohio Valley southeast, and that will put down some moisture. Same thing with snow. Most of the snow is over in the northeastern parts of the country, but boy, that snow out west and then that streak of light snow coming across the middle of the country. Still warm today as far as afternoon temperatures in the southern plains, and still chilly across the north with lots of 20s, as you can see there. Pretty chilly though in Florida and parts of the southeast as well. You can see on the temperatures as we head through the time frames there. Still a big trough in the jet stream in the northeast, one out west. Parts of that comes east early next week with another storm system, and the trough redevelops in the east with another trough in the west. Kind of the same pattern we've seen lately. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, Livingston, Montana, cloudy and rather mild today, high of 47 degrees. Springdale, Arkansas, variably cloudy, a thunderstorm likely, high of 72. And Harrisburg, PA, partly sunny, breezy and chilly today, high around 42 degrees.
All right, thanks, Mike. Well, coming up, we're going to continue our conversations with leaders here in Washington, and later, my thoughts on coming to the nation's capital. To say farmers and ranchers have had an adversarial relationship with the EPA over the past decade might be putting it nicely. But the agency's new boss, Oklahoman Scott Pruitt, a man who once fought furiously against its policies, is now trying to change that perception. As we talk about some of the projects, the regulations and legislation that's been going through the EPA, WOTUS has been a big one. You're taking a very different approach, this administration taking a very different approach to that. In fact, we could have more clarity on that this year, right?
Yeah, we'll have a final rule this year. A final rule meaning that we'll have a substitute or replacement definition. I mean, as you know, we've actually had two different rules in the marketplace, at least at this point. One is rescinding that 2015 rule, that 2015 definition of what a wild of the United States is. And then we've got a substitute definition that provides the answer going forward, because we need to provide an answer. The answer needs to recognize private property ownership. It needs to recognize the role of states. It needs to hew and actually look at that statute, the Clean Water Act, and ask and answer the question, what is intended by a water of the United States? What does that mean? And it doesn't mean a Tri Creek bed. It doesn't mean an ephemeral drainage ditch. It doesn't mean a prairie pothole in North Dakota. I mean, it means something much more like a traditionally navigable water because of interstate commerce and the rest, and the intent that the Clean Water Act ingrained into the language of the statute, recognizing the role of states and in these matters. So we're going to get that right going forward, and the definition is going to provide clarity.
When we come back, my thoughts on coming to the nation's capital.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit KubotaUSA.com today.
I've been lucky to come to Washington, D.C. a handful of times through the years, and every time I come, I'm struck by the connection that it helps build with being an American. Maybe it's the size and scale of the monuments, the granite and marble columns, Washington Mall, or even the museums that capture history in all of its elegant glory. These are not the trappings of a simple, unsophisticated nation, rather the drapery of greatness, and even in their unmoving stone facades, grandeur is lurking. Or it may be the people, the hustle and bustle of the Capitol, being where our laws are made, protected, and enshrined. Everyone, it seems, has an agenda and a purpose or lobby. They're rushing to move that thing forward with urgency. It's all urgency. Or it could be the history. America, as a nation, is not that old. A couple of hundred years, and yet so much of its founding story remains in Washington, D.C. From the halls of the Capitol, haunted by leaders and legislation passed, to streets laid out with purpose, to the paths once walked by the Founding Fathers. This is a place of reverence, of remembrance, and reconciliation, all of which we could use more of today. So I encourage you, plan a trip around calving or planting season, skip a summer ball tournament, and come here to the nation's capital. It'll remind you why this little experiment called America is worth fighting for. And that's going to wrap us up for this special edition of Ag Day. We thank you for joining us, and from all of us here at Ag Day, thanks for watching.
AgDay, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest-lasting heavy-duty pickups.